All right. Welcome back to the Chris and Veronica show. ChrisandVeronica.com. My name is Chris, and this is...
Hi, Veronica.
Hi. Welcome back. So, again, we are just going off the cuff and making some fun episodes. So
We're free, unscripted. Ooh.
completely unscripted. And I was thinking about this episode. What if we talked about cars? Like, what were your car experiences growing up? Like, and or now or whatever. Like, what are your car things that really stick out to you where you're like, this was kind of crazy, or, this was kind of fun, right?
Remind me what the rules are again. No, just kidding.
Unscripted. This is all unscripted. You do you.
Oh, when did you start driving?
Well, I guess that depends. When I was very young, we did tractors and stuff because farming was a thing, right?
Fun.
And we also had the John Deere tractors to like ride around and like mow the lawns and stuff. And then motocross, I had like a 50cc like motorcycle. So I'd ride that around when I was like, younger. And my sister even tried once to like ride it, but she ran into a rhododendron bush and then never got on another motorcycle again, I believe.
Yeah, that could be scary.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. What was the question? I don't remember. But
When did you first start driving?
when did I first start driving? So I guess that depends on what that in go-karts. Like we built go-karts when I was younger. And
I've lived a very sheltered life once I start speaking to you. I realize I've lived a very sheltered life.
I grew up in a family of like engineers and farmers, right? Engineers and farmers and people that worked with horses and stuff like that. So my life is, I think, a lot different than people that grew up in like the full city
Yes.
or like that kind of thing. So I think, yeah, I agree. It's a little different.
Mine was, I was 18 and my boyfriend at the time, he was trying to teach me how to drive. I did not learn how to drive a clutch until we were stationed at Fort Wainwright, Alaska. And that's because I had to, because my husband was at the time was saying, Veronica, what if I have to leave for an exercise? How are you going to get around?
Yeah.
Can we not buy a taxi?
Yeah, right.
He's like, no.
Don't I have my own private driver? I mean, come on. Yeah.
So that year I learned how to drive a stick.
Okay.
And they had to switch out the, the gear shift because I had burned out the motor from learning now.
The clutch. Yeah.
Yes,
The clutch.
we had to
Okay.
switch
Change
out
out the clutch. Okay,
yes.
that's fine. Yeah. I think so. When I first started driving, I think it was a 1972 Datsun pickup truck that was blue and had the suspension held together by a bunch of rope in order to like keep it going down the road. And it was just like a farm work truck kind of thing. Just a tiny, tiny vehicle. And it had like first, second, third, fourth, and reverse. And it was real loose in the shifter. So you never really knew if you were in like first or third or where, like if you're up or if you had no idea where you're at. And a lot of times you didn't even want to try to go for fourth going down the road for fear that you would end up being back in second. So,
That's so funny.
And-
Scary, but funny.
yeah. And I grew up around here. So we would go down to the Boeing parking lot down in Kent, down in the valley, like Maple Valley, like not Maple Valley, but like in the valley, like north of Kent. There at the time, like Boeing had like a bunch of places down there that just had big open lots, and so we would go and like drive down there, and that's how I learned how to drive and to park and to use like a brake and like all of that.
What, a break? What's that?
Right? Yeah, this is how like brakes work and all
We
that.
call that a California stop.
And, like just trying out the clutch and stuff. And because it was an old truck, I don't think there was too much of a concern about like burning out anything. It was just like, try this and see how it goes,
That was interesting. My first car that I learned how to drive in was a Toyota Corolla, my first one. But my favorite car of all times was my Nissan Pathfinder.
Yeah.
I felt that it looked cute enough, but also if I needed to put the sit down because I had to like call something, it was perfect until someone let me borrow their Murano. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
it's smallish. But then I've gotten into your car and I was like, no, this is it. Something that's compact enough, but you can make room for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now we're in a Subaru Crosstrek, and then we also have a Subaru WRX. So the Crosstrek is comfortable and it has a nice turning radius for being in the city. It's easy to parallel park. It's got the like reverse cameras, all that stuff, right? Like I don't even know what we did before reverse cameras. I remember I was learning to drive a stick, and in my like grandparents' front like driveway, there was a bit of a hill there, and my mom had just gotten a 1988 a Dodge Series K, which was a like two-door vehicle that had a stick shift on it, and it was a 1 through 5 where you had to like click up in order to get back into reverse. And I remember trying to learn how to do that on the hill without running into the house.
Okay.
Right.
So I refuse to use my reverse camera because what if it breaks down? What if it breaks? I remember a friend said, "Oh, I can't drive." And I said, "Why not? Your car should say." Said, "Yeah, my reverse camera, it broke and I have to
Okay,
get it
right.
fixed."
Hello, dramatic.
I know. And I was
right?
like, you use your
You just
mirrors?
look,
What do you
right?
mean?
When I lived in Los Angeles, you knew when people were parking because the alarms would go off because people would tap the front bumper,
And then
tap the back
yes.
bumper, and then tap the front bumper and tap in order to make enough room to move your car out of the way in order to fit their car because they feel like you parked it wrong. Like oh my gosh, that is so hilarious. These memories. Okay, so I had this like I call it the Great Canadian Land Yacht, but it was like this like 4-door like hoopty thing, and it was really really fun to drive and really spacious and stuff. But trying to park in West Hollywood was not a thing in that at all. And like I remember I had on the like front license plate like just divots galore, and then on the back bumper there was like paint missing in the middle of the back of my bumper because I would do that so frequently to other people.
This is why you're
and they would do it
laughing.
to me, right? And
'Cause that
that's
was
just
the
like
thing.
that was what you did when you parked there. And again, this is like there are no reverse cameras at this time or anything like that, so you don't know how close you're going to be getting. You just got to like get in there and be like, I'm parking. Get out my spot. I'm
That
here.
is the one thing. Now watch me not be able to do it, but reverse parking, I was like, yeah, you just parallel parking. There you go. That's it. What do you mean? And trying to, I think there are certain people you can parallel park or you cannot. That's it. There is no in between.
Yeah.
You'll take longer times or yeah, you just do, there you go.
Yeah. I remember when I moved to Los Angeles, I had to redo my driver's license, and I actually had to do another drive to get my California driver's license. And I couldn't use my car because it wasn't registered in California, but I couldn't like register it or something without getting my license first or something. And I was like, this is a chicken egg scenario. Can I not just like register my car and use my car and whatever? And they're like, well, you have to use a car that's been like registered in California or something. I don't even know if they changed that rule or if I made it up in my head. But anyway, I ended up using my boss's car at the time, and it was this like 2-door like sports car thing. And I was like driving around, and the guy was next to me, and he was like, "Hey, just need you to change lanes over to the right or whatever." And then like 30 seconds goes by, I haven't moved over to the right-hand lane. And he's like, "I said I need you to move over to the right." And I was like, "I told you I'm driving the car. I need you to calm down because there's people on the right-hand side. And you just asked me to change lanes in the middle of an intersection. So you want me to go right over? I'll go right over and knock him over. But until then, I need you to shut up because I'm driving." And he,
everybody, and this is the Chris. I know when he's being serious. I'm like, ooh,
Right?
you in trouble now. But continue with your
and
story.
so this guy, like, he looks at me and he's like, "You've been driving for a while, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Why don't you just like make it safe, pull around a corner somewhere? We'll sit down, and do you mind if I just like knock you down for a couple things, and then we'll just like go back and here's your license?" And I was like, "Sounds good to me." He's like, "We're not even going to do like parallel parking. We're not even going to do backing around a corner. We're not going to do any of that stuff because I already know the rules of the road to the point that like I'm telling you this I am not going to do. I don't care if you're my instructor or not, or the person that's going to give me my license. If you're asking me to do something unsafe, I'm going to tell you about it real quick, right?" So that like that's my like internal like Hawthorne voice. Hi. I'm back.
And there we are, everyone.
Right? She gets ghetto real fast, but it's fine. Yeah.
Oh, I love the way how I can tell like, oh, Chris is being serious. You in trouble
Is that
now.
in trouble? Yeah. Yep.
No, what's your dream car?
I wouldn't say that I have a dream car necessarily. I think that I have tried to think of dream cars several times and even gone and like sat in dream cars or wanted to like buy dream cars, right? Because like that's a whole thing. But for me, because I'm 6'6", I can't really have
It's true.
that. Like, for me, it is it spacious? Does it like work around town? Can I get to the things that I want to be able to do? And can I go somewhere without having to like scrape the bottom of my car, Because like
Yes.
if I look at things like Lambos or like sports cars that are like that,
Oh,
I wouldn't mind having one. That'd be fine, but it would be for a track, right? It's not going to be for everyday use.
yes.
And I'm a very practical person. Like I prefer to
No.
have practicality. I
What?
know.
Not my
I
Christopher.
know. Shocker, shocking. I'm very practical. And so, from that standpoint, I would rather have something that I can actually use rather than something that's just going to sit there. Now, if I had the option, it'd probably be like a 69 Mustang or something like that.
Ooh,
I think that would be a
yeah.
good thing. I'm a huge fan of like muscle cars and things that go vroom vroom. So, that kind of thing. And I've recently started getting more into electric vehicles that have this like speed capacity to them, even if it's motorcycles. So this like last week, I had a random day where I had a client reschedule. So my mom and I went out to lunch, and then we stopped by some of my clients. And one of my clients is a motorsports place, and so stopped in there,
I
like one of
saw
my
that
contacts,
picture.
yeah. And so stopped in there to be able to say hi to them. And apparently they have a new like motorcycle that's coming out that is electric from Can-Am or whatever. And
Oh,
so they
it's
got like two of
Canada.
them,
Okay.
but it's not the three-wheelers. It's actually like a two-wheel motorcycle from Can-Am.
What?
Yeah, and there's two different types of them that they're coming out with. So I'm kind of excited to see those a bit as well. So on that side, like, I mean, we belong to like, we have this like queer car club meetup that meets like in this area. So we go to that. We have the WRX before that, the smart car. And so we've always had something that's like kind of fun to be able to like take around to places, and people are like, where'd you get that from? What's that? Or like, what's your thing with that? And I do go to a bunch of the car shows in the area as well. And then when I was with the radio station, we would put on car shows out at some of the wineries and stuff out in Woodinville. And so it's always been fun to engage in that like car and vehicle space. I think that probably my next like quote dream vehicle is probably going to be more of a full size truck of some kind, because I want to be
Ooh.
able to tow toys and like bigger toys and fun toys. So that's my goal, I think, is that. But then, I've
Oh.
also got Pocket, who's 5'1", that isn't going to be able to see over the wheel. So there's that. We've been trying to find like trucks that'll fit Pocket so that Pocket can actually get in. I know,
They're
Rico.
called
Yeah,
they're
we're
called
moving.
little steps.
Yeah,
I love that. One of my clients, you open the door and a steps comes out. I'm like,
yeah,
I love this. I love
yeah.
this. Okay.
Yeah, we've been looking, and we've looked at some of them. Like there's like GMCs and stuff. That there's some real like high end ones that are pretty good. But like again, we're just looking. They're just fun, right? And it's fun to look at stuff.
I really love the old cars. It reminds
Mm.
me of East Los Angeles, especially with the lowriders and the beautiful vehicles. So I love a Fairlane. It's
Yeah.
beautiful, but I've been in one. I'm like, oh my God, this is so, they're heavy. It
Yeah.
reminds me almost, my mom had a Thunderbird
Okay.
and the power steering went out. Let me
You're
tell you.
like you're using all your arm muscles. You're leaning
Yes.
into it. You're trying to pull
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yes. So I have a friend that they have an all women's car club. It's called Unidas por Vida. They do some amazing workout in the community. And she says, "You want to drive it?" And I was like, mm-mm. I just went a little bit. I'm like, oh no, It's almost like driving a car without power steering. She's like, there is no power steering. I'm like, oh, well,
Exactly.
that's why. I'm like, no, that's okay. Let's park.
Yeah.
You get back in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and there's a bunch. So there are some people who are like a classic car should say a classic car, and there's other people
Yes.
that say like there should be some upgrades to classic cars in order to get them to be like more road safe in some
But
cases.
that ruins the whole reason why they're a classic car.
Right. And so that's why it's that like controversial topic, like controversy. I
Really?
know, right? Who knew?
What?
And
Chris is bringing up a controversial
what?
subject.
I know. We're just riffing off the cuff. So why not? Let's talk about controversy. Yeah. In that like classic car space, because it's either going to be like true to that vehicle and like when it came off of the line, right? Or it's going to be something where you could do like Franken cars and like all these other things.
Yeah.
But in general, I think for me, if it was safety systems like brakes, or if you needed or wanted to put in power steering, or you wanted to like soup up the engine in order to get to a point that you can do either drag races or some sort of like time tracks or something, and change the suspension on them so that they aren't necessarily stock. I think that those types of things make it interesting for people to like take their vehicles to the next level if they want to do that. But in
Do you
general,
think
I
they should still
prefer.
keep their certification of authenticity then?
That's the thing, right? So I feel like depending on the engine, because a lot of that has to do with like emission standards and having to pass current emission standards. And so classic vehicles will often be like exempt from those kind of regulations. So I
Yes.
think that's a bigger question.
I
But
think if you're going to mess under the hood because you're making it better, okay, great. But then your exemption should be taken away because it's not. The reason why they're giving the exemption is because it's classic, it's vintage, right?
mm,
But if you're going
the
to,
question is what part of it, right? Is it the body, right? Is it the body that you're keeping completely pristine? If you're keeping the body pristine and it's a classic vehicle, then you're keeping the essence of the look of it, which could mean that it is a classic collector in that sense, even though everything underneath it could be different. Like you've replaced the leather, right? You've replaced the interior for it in order to have it be similar to what it looked like coming off the thing, but you can't oftentimes find that either. So if somebody wanted to change out their seats, not like in general, but just like the basics of it, of like, I'm putting in some new springs because some rusted out. I'm putting in some new leather because that's different, like that restoration factor. There are
yes,
certain points that it has to be, I feel like, restored in order for it
correct.
to
But
be
there's
classic.
a difference. It's restoration versus add on. I think
I mean, is
you, you,
a new leather seat an add-on, right? Are you making it more comfortable for
we
you to
need to
be able
go to
to
the
ride
next
in?
session so we can be the pot stirrers.
Yeah. So and I think that's always a question in the collector space, especially for classic car collectors. That's a big question that people put
Yeah.
out there.
Well, isn't it the same also? Now I don't know. I'm just asking, but if you have a authentic painting, what
Yeah.
happens if you have to? Do you lose your license of? Oh, this is an authentic Van Gogh or whatever, right? If you change anything, don't you lose something about it?
So yeah, so the essence of artwork and then artwork sales and then also like artwork collection, these are all different things. And that's where, if you think about even a lot of the artwork that is inside of museums has been touched up in some way. They aren't original to the like, because you want it to be something that people can look at. And so there are people who specialize in restoring that, right? And they have the knowledge and skill to be able to make it so that it is to the essence of that painting or that collector's item. So I feel like if you are doing something for your own memory, that's one thing. If you're doing something for the market, that is something
I
different.
love that. I think that is true. I love that because then it's a matter of, am I souping up this car so that I don't have to worry about the emissions test, or am I souping up the car because, hey, I really drive it to all these shows and whatnot? But I was told from a lot of friends like, oh no, we don't drive it just to drive it because it adds, the wear and tear of it all.
Yeah, so I feel like most people get into that because they want to be able to do their own like memories, right? And they want to have the nostalgia that's tied to
Yes.
it.
Yes.
They don't necessarily care about getting into it for the emission standards side and the classic car like license for that. I think that most people get into that, and then the byproduct of that nostalgia is that there are different layers and everything to
Yes.
what people are doing.
And I didn't know how expensive of a hobby that was. My friend was saying that because it's not the same paint, you have to go to a special paint person and you have to have a special mechanic because not everybody knows how to. Like, we opened up the hood and I was like, where's the rest?
Yeah.
There was like one big thing, and I think that was the oil pan. I was like, where's the rest?
Yeah, you've only got like an air filter in here. Like, why is this air filter bigger than a lady's hat down at like whatever that
Yes.
horse race is, like Kentucky Derby?
We were driving up to Seattle, and the car broke down, and we had to pull it over. And it just so happened there was a mechanic shop, so I went over there, and my friend was asking. He was speaking in Spanish. He's like, I don't know how to speak Spanish. I'm like,
I got
we'll
this.
talk about you later.
Right? Yeah.
So I told him, and he walked over and he opened up the hood and he was like, I don't know anything about this car.
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought it would be cars are cars. What do you mean?
It's, the idea of cars turning into technology, right?
Yes.
Because it used to be mechanical and mechanics, and now it's a combination of that and technology
Yes.
in order to have things work. So if you have like a motherboard, for example, this is all just going to be random, like 10,000 foot level things, but like a motherboard that goes out that takes care of your timing belt for you, or your timing for your engine for you, right? These are all things that can impact it because of an electrical short or a part that goes out on it, rather than back in the day when it was mechanical, you're like, it's not turning over. Well, yeah, you stripped the thing, right? And so you go in, you replace the stripped thing, and then it's like, that's what it is, because it's all mechanical versus like electronic. So
I know. Isn't that funny how now you have to know a little bit about everything? But it's okay. Google and YouTube are your friends.
They are. And there's so much knowledge. That's why, like, I feel like we have the opportunity to collect with people in that vehicle space, and collect and connect with people in the vehicle space that are not only local, but they're also like throughout the world.
Yes.
And so if there's somebody out there that has like, I go on some of the port tours and stuff, and it's really interesting to see the vehicles that are imported in that are like specialty vehicles in different senses. So whether it's like very tiny vehicles to like large, huge machines that like the military uses and all that, it's really fun to see the types of like just things that we use to be able to get around or to be able to do stuff.
Just something that's outside of our normal, right? That's normal for someone else.
Yeah. So anyway, that's cars. Hi. Vehicles, transportation.
Favorite car movie? Mine was, remember when Herbie, the Love Bug?
Yeah, Love Bug. Yeah.
Yes. I think
Lindsay Lohan version or before?
There's a Lindsay Lohan version?
Yeah, this is the whole thing. That's going to be a long story, but yes.
So now we know what we're going to do after this.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I want to say it was Lindsay Lohan. There's like a Leela, like it was somebody like her, or it was either her or somebody else. We're going to have to fact check this later. So go online, put it in the comments. I'm completely wrong. But there was like a Love Bug movie that was redone. Not like I think it was 70s version or 80s version. And now it's like early 2000s version or something like that. These dates are completely off.
Yes.
But anyway, the general thought is that, yes, there was like a remake of it.
Okay.
But yeah, I know what you're talking about. I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Yes. Favorite car movie for me? For me, it was actually the car shows.
Carrie. Just kidding.
No, Carrie? I don't think I've ever actually
it wasn't
seen
Carrie.
Carrie. I know.
Which one was which one was the one with the car movie, the horror movie that the car was killing people? Which one was that one?
I don't watch horror movies.
That is, never mind. We're going to find, I'm going to have to message
I'm
my
a
husband.
Hallmark Channel lovey-dovey person all day long. I do not watch any of that stuff.
Yeah, you're a savage at times, but go ahead.
Uh-huh. But that's from lived experience, not learned by watching on TV. Pocket watches all these murder shows, and I was like, you should have seen me when I was younger. No. So car things. So when I was younger, I think that for me, it was like, Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings, there'd always be like the car show guy that had the British accent or whatever. And he would like talk about the new cars that were coming onto the market, and they would like show them going around the track and then give the specs about them, but never the price. I was like, you're giving all these specs about these things, and they're like allowed to take them out for like a day or two and test them out, and then they like return them back. And I want to say they also tied into the Consumer Reports side of things for vehicles when they were first coming out. But it was like that Saturday morning, Sunday morning show. So I would watch that for the different types of vehicles that were coming onto the market. And whether it was just like a daily driver, like a sedan or a big truck or like a tiny vehicle or a motorcycle, like they did a little bit of everything on that. And I want to say it's Motor Week or something was what it was. But yeah, anyway, that's what I watched when I was younger.
I think we should start a whole separate channel of Chris and Veronica take a drive. And then people can lend us their cars and we can go on a drive and we'll let you know what we think of it.
I don't know about all that. I am like, the inside of me right now is like cringing. Because I'm imagining if I had a collector car and I was like, hey, Veronica, would you like to drive? I won't even come out of my mouth.
No, I would be like, no, Chris is the driver. I'm the passenger. I'm going to give you the passenger experience.
Yeah.
See, we have our roles.
Yeah,
driver, passenger.
There you go. That makes more sense.
Yes,
I would do that.
Yeah, because then I'd have to pay attention. No.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the whole thing. My friend and I, like, we went on, and every once in a while we'll like get a random car or whatever and just go on like drives and we'll like race on back roads and stuff. Don't do this. Don't do any of this at home. Whatever I'm talking about, Mom, you're not listening. Yeah, we would like race on like back roads and stuff. Make sure there's no police, no people, no like cars or anything else around.
So you mean a farm road, private property road?
Yeah.
Yes,
Those like farm road stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, private property all the way. And yeah, we just like race for funsies, you know, and we'd like trade off on each other's cars and stuff. And it was a whole thing. And like I drove a 88 Ford Tempo GL. You're welcome. It's a whole thing. It had the like seatbelt that came up and over. And it was like a 5-speed. And that thing was so much fun. And then I wrecked it. But, you know, that was, you know, not my fault. It was
It's
slippery,
never your fault.
slippery on Highway 18. I don't know if you've ever driven on Highway 18, but it was slippery. And I was going over 18 at Auburn Way, you know, on that bridge right there.
Yes.
And there was like water in the divots and they hadn't fixed like the thing. I'm blaming this on other people. It's definitely my fault. But there was like divots. And so when there's water in the divots, I was like going and planing over them. And so I thought it would be a good idea to switch from like 5th down to like 3rd, I think, in order to like
Slow
get more
down.
control.
Mm-hmm.
And
That was not a good thing.
it was not a good thing because as soon as I went from 5th to 3rd, you know, the wheels, because there was no traction, it just ended up like skipping a little bit. And then I hit all 4 bumpers and I made it. So I was okay and like the car was okay and there was no other cars on the road or anything, but I was going to see my boyfriend at the time who was in a horse show. And so I was going to like go out and see him. So I went out there and then like I came back and I was like, oh, my mom's going to be so pissed at me. It's a whole thing. And I show up and again, 88 Ford Tempo GL. Love this vehicle. I make it out there and my mom, like, I was like, hey, so I did a thing. And my mom was like, okay, what is it? And I was like, oh, like I hit all 4 bumpers and now like the back bumper is hanging off of my car. And she's like, all right, well, let's go take a look at it. And I was like, okay. So we go and like look at it. And she's like, hey, yeah, I mean, we can fix this. Just go get some duct tape. And I was like, oh, here we go. So I go like into the garage and keep in mind, this is the first time this has ever happened to me. And I'm like still like shook up from everything. And mom says like, go into the like garage and grab some duct tape. I come back out and my mom is on the back bumper, wailing on the back of it, like jumping on it, like pulling the side of it to like break the bumper off. She breaks off half the bumper and then she like puts it to the side. And she's like, there you go. Just put some duct tape on the rest of that and it'll be fine. I was like, Mom, that is my car. What are you doing?
So this is a person that...
Right? Anyway, so I have a long and sordid history with vehicles.
I can tell. So this will not be another subject unless we have 30 minutes to an hour.
I mean, we still got 30 minutes. There's a lady that I bought a Saturn from once without even driving it.
No.
I didn't even test drive it. This is how stupid I was when I was younger. It was the whole thing. Saturn. It was blue. And then somebody sat on the front, hood of it. I used to be a bartender. It was a long story. But somebody sat on the front of like hood of my car in order to like go down the road.
And they put
again, private road, no public access. But my friend decided he wanted to ride on the hood of my car. And so I was like, I mean, we're only going a couple blocks, so why not? So he gets on there and he's riding on the hood of my car and ends up like denting in the hood of my car. And I was like, oh, you dented, his name was Dan. We don't know him, but we'll say his name was Dan. Hi, Dan. Dented the hood of my car. And I was like, Dan, what are you doing? You dented the hood of my car. He said you could ride on my car and not like dent it. And at the time, as soon as that came out of my mouth, I was like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever said in my entire life.
I know.
And then,
I was waiting for you to acknowledge that. I'm glad you did.
And so he ended up like denting the front of my car. And so I had that car for almost 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
That same dent in the hood when I went to sell it. Same dent. And so every day I like drive out and I'd be like, Dan, that guy.
So
that was fun times. That was good, right? Like that whole thing of just like, I think that vehicles also bring memories and nostalgia, right? And if I ever see that car like going down the road, I'll know that that's my car that I had.
You gotta look for
because I got to look for the little like button dent in the hood, you know? I got to see it and be like, hey, that's the one. That was my car.
I love this because it's just a reminder. See, I'm not the crazy one.
No, that's me. I'm the crazy one. But I'm crazy fun in a good way.
Me too.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Okay. So yeah, that's a lot of stories. We're at almost 30 minutes, so we should probably cut it.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, this is the Chris and Veronica Show. chrisandveronica.com. My name is Chris, and this is
Veronica.
Find us online, Facebook, social medias, YouTubes, all those Chris and Veronica Show. We hope that you enjoyed your time with us today, and we'll see you for our next episode.
Bye.
Bye.